Known. I've been thinking lately about how easily we confuse our roles with our identity. It starts long before we realize it's happening. For a long time, I wasn't simply Rebecca. I was Chuck Berry's daughter. That wasn't a bad thing. I was proud to be his daughter. But it's interesting how naturally people come to know us by the role they first encounter. It isn't intentional. It's simply the window through which they meet us. A few years later, I became the Hokey. Then I became the Pepsi girl. Later, I became the Amazon girl. If someone had asked who I was during any of those seasons, I probably would have answered with whichever role happened to occupy the most space in my life at the time. Looking back, I don't think that's all that unusual. I think most of us do it. We become someone's husband or wife, someone's mother, someone's father, someone's teacher, someone's pastor, manager, caregiver. We wear those roles long enough that they slowly stop feeling like things we do and begin feeling like who we are. For nearly 20 years, one of my roles required difficult conversations almost every day. People would occasionally hear a phone call and laugh that they could never do what I did. Most meant it as a compliment. Every once in a while, someone chose a word a little stronger than tough. I'd usually laugh. It was easier than explaining. The truth was, I never enjoyed those conversations. I didn't wake up hoping someone had created another problem for me to solve. I didn't enjoy conflict. I didn't enjoy disappointing people. Those conversations weren't my personality. They were my responsibility. Every morning before I walked through the door, I quietly prepared myself. Someone would probably disagree with me before the day was over. Someone would likely be frustrated. Someone might leave angry. That wasn't pessimism. It was preparation. Preparation has an interesting way of shaping us. If you spend enough years carrying difficult conversations, people begin to assume you don't mind carrying them. If you remain calm in conflict, they assume conflict doesn't affect you. If you're willing to make hard decisions, they assume you enjoy making them. And after enough years, I think I started believing it too. Looking back, I confused adaptation with identity. I wasn't naturally tougher than everyone imagined. I had simply spent 2 decades becoming exactly the person my work required me to be. When I walked away from corporate life, I thought I had lost a career. Looking back, I think what I really lost was a role. It wasn't an overnight realization. Months passed before I noticed my mornings felt different. I wasn't wondering what problem would be waiting in my inbox or which difficult conversation needed to happen before lunch. Instead, I found myself thinking about bread dough, flowers that needed watered, a recipe I wanted to try, a paragraph that refused to leave me alone. The more distance I gained, the more I realized something surprising. I still know how to have difficult conversations. I still know how to make hard decisions. I still know how to lead. Those things didn't disappear. What disappeared was the assumption that every knock at the door required me to answer it. For years, I believed every disagreement deserved my attention. Every misunderstanding required an explanation, and every opinion needed a response. Now I know better. There's a difference between being available and being responsible for every conversation someone else wants to have. That was never an identity. It was an assignment. Assignments end. Identity remains. The older I get, the more I wonder how many of us are still living as versions of ourselves that were built for seasons we've already left behind. Some are still living as the athlete, some as the executive, some as the caregiver, and some as the grieving spouse, some as the parent whose children have long since grown, some as the person who had to be strong because there wasn't another choice. Those seasons shape us. Sometimes they even save us. But they were never meant to define us forever. For years, I spent an enormous amount of energy trying to make people understand me correctly. If I thought someone had misunderstood my motives, I wanted to explain them. If I thought someone had reached the wrong conclusion, I wanted to provide more context. These days, I don't spend nearly as much energy introducing myself to people who have already decided they know me. Not because I've become cynical, because I've become free. The people who genuinely want to know you ask questions. They stay curious. They leave room to discover they may have been wrong. The people who have already decided who you are usually aren't looking for more information. No amount of explaining changes a conclusion someone has already chosen. That realization has been strangely liberating. Because long before I was Chuck Berry's daughter, long before I was a Hokie, long before I worked for Pepsi or Amazon, God knew me. He knew me before there were titles to earn, responsibilities to carry, or expectations to meet. People have always known me through the window of whatever season happened to overlap with theirs. God has known every chapter, every version, every fear, every hope, every role I've ever carried has eventually come to an end. His knowledge of me never has. For a long time, I thought I was losing part of myself. What I was really losing was a role. God had known the difference all along.